All right, we have him back by popular demand. He is our political outsider of the day here on Canada Live. He is also a columnist with the Journal de Quebec. There he is, joining us live from La Belle Provence, Éric Duhaime. There is much to talk about, my friend. Weighty matters aside, we'll get to the healthcare accord in a moment, but let's deal with the issue that is the crisis in the province of Quebec right now. What else are we talking about? Hockey and the nomination of the interim coach of Les Canadiens, who is not only an anglophone, but he is unilingual at that. This is not going over well in your province, is it?
Not at all, Krista. There's been a huge storm in Quebec over the last 72 hours, and it has nothing to do with the weather, but it's the fact that the Habs have fired their coach on Saturday morning, Jacques Martin, and replaced him by Randy Cunneyworth, that has the problem of being a unilingual anglophone. Every single politician in the province has took a stand to bash the Montreal Canadiens organization, and today there's I'll show you the front page of Le Journal de Montréal. Unacceptable. 72% of Quebecers say this is a disgrace. It's disrespectful, that it's unacceptable. Like, they could do whatever they want, but we want a coach that speaks French. And the poor new guy, unfortunately for him, he lost his first 2 games, so the storm is even bigger right now. So there's politicians of all stripes have been doing what politicians do the best, being a bunch of opportunists coming out saying they need to speak French. You know, they have a lot of duty, a lot of things to do, a lot of, relevant and important things for Canadians. And the only thing they can think of coming up with is talking about the language issue of the Montreal Canadiens head coach. And it's particularly ironic if you look at our politicians in Ottawa, when you think of the NDP, for example, that is saying that it's a compulsory. We need a francophone or at least somebody who's bilingual to head our team in Montreal, but they don't think it's relevant to tell the 3 unilingual anglophones that are running for the leadership of their party and want to become the leader of the opposition in the first place and then maybe Prime Minister of Canada, to be unilingual is not an issue for them. That's not important. It was not important on May 2nd when some of their own candidates in francophone ridings, like Ruth Ellen Brousseau and Berthier, who didn't speak French and got elected, even if 96% of our constituency is French, that was not important. But for the head of the Montreal Canadiens team, it's the end of the world.
So what does this mean, that the NDP in this, if I can put it this way, Éric, and I realize I'm probably going to offend some people, this tempest in a teapot, maybe not you, this tempest in a teapot has exposed some flaws on the part of the NDP, which is what exactly?
Man, it exposed the hypocrisy of politicians, basically. That's what it is all about. I mean, those guys are, it's not their business. I'm sorry, but the Montreal Canadiens fans...
It's a private enterprise.
Yeah, and Montreal Canadiens fans have been very loud and clear over the last 2-3 days, and the Molson family that owns the Montreal Canadiens team already came out saying, okay, we got your message. The guy's not going to be there next year. Just let us finish our season. And the way the team is playing this year anyway, the season is not going to last that long, believe me. So they're just, and on the other hand, it also shows us, like, Quebecers are very sensitive when it comes to language issues, and unfortunately it gets very, very emotional and not very rational. If anything like that happened in Toronto or Calgary or any other city in Canada where a coach was hired and didn't speak English very well, how would you think Quebecers would have reacted if people out there would have said he should get fired because he's a francophone? People in Quebec would have said it's Quebec bashing, it's unacceptable, like we would have been screaming. But now we're doing the exact same thing to that poor guy who didn't ask for the job, who kind of got it by accident because the other guy got fired, and now he's at the center of the storm. He's in the eye of the storm, and it reveals us how politicians are. Unfortunately, when it's time to try to score political cheap points, they're always present.
Okay, is there a rational argument to make, though, that this was the wrong person for the job? I mean, one critic in particular, I read, cited an example of a sports franchise. I think it's a soccer team in Barcelona, whereby the motto is more than a team, and all of the players and personnel and so on are required to learn the particular dialect of Spanish that is spoken predominantly by either the people on the team or the people in Barcelona and so on. So this kind of thing is observed elsewhere in other parts of the sports world.
No, the Montreal Canadiens is the sports team in Quebec. That there's no discussion about that, and it is important for the coach to communicate with the fans. And obviously, you know, it's been the case for the last 40 years, and it's going to be the case next season for sure. But just in the spare time, in the meantime, what are we going to do? So there's just going to be somebody there who unfortunately is not speaking French. And French also, I mean, it's a language they can learn. I mean, we can give the guy a shot, and maybe over the summer he could try to learn it. If he's winning with our team, I'm sure that many of us will say, let's put him there, let's make sure that he stays there, because at the end of the day, the guy is hired to win hockey games. He's not there to give us French lessons.
Yes. All right. I've got to, before I let you go, get you on the discourse here, or the discord, I should say, over the health care accord. You know about the stink bomb that Minister Flaherty dropped in the meeting yesterday with provincial finance ministers. The way that the federal government funds health care is going to change. Don't count on your funding increasing by 6% every year, provinces, was the message. It's going to be less. It'll never go below 3%, but it will be less. Your province, the province of Quebec, is not happy about this, as is the case with a number of other provinces. What do you think?
Well, I think that we have no choice. I mean, the healthcare issue, the healthcare spending in Canada, like for example in Quebec, over the last 20 years, it went up from 30% of the province's budget to 50% today, and it's still going to boom if we still keep increasing our cost by 6-7% every year. We have no choice. And one day or the other, the federal government, yes, they're saying the right thing right now by saying that in the near future we'll have to lower that to 3% maximum. But on the other hand, they also have to give the provinces the tools to allow patients who want to pay for some of their services to put fresh money in the system. Our governments are broke. They cannot put a single penny extra in healthcare, and it's going to be more and more difficult with the aging of our population. But on the other hand, we cannot have that, you know, Cuban/Chinese monopoly on healthcare, where people are not allowed to pay if they want to have better healthcare services. One day or the other, like it or not, the federal government will need to open up. They cannot, on one hand, say they're going to decrease their participation, their financial participation in healthcare, and on the other hand, deprive the provinces from new sources of revenues. One day, they will have to be consistent.
Okay, and so when that day arrives, with the tools that the provinces need, are what? To revisit the Canada Health Act,
yes.
Open it up and allow for user fees.
That's absolutely right. We need to allow people to pay for healthcare like we pay for everything else in our society, and stop making it illegal for somebody to invest in what he has the most important thing in his life, his own healthcare.
Thanks as always, Éric.
Thank you very much, Krista.
You betcha. Oh, and Merry Christmas. I'm not going to see you next week. So.
Merry Christmas to you too.
Thank you.
Au revoir.
Au revoir. Éric Duhaime, he is our political outsider and columnist with the Journal de Quebec, joining us live from Montreal.